Hello everyone, and welcome to In Depth, the YouTube channel that takes a deep dive into your favorite topics. You saw the thumbnail. We're exploring Wilt Chamberlain's monstrous, not that one, there you go, monstrous 50-point per game season. Alright, let's not waste any time and get right into it. For those of you who don't know who Wilt Chamberlain is, he's a basketball player that played from 1959 to 1973. He's considered one of the best athletes of all time, standing at 7'1" and being able to complete a 100-meter dash in just under 11 seconds. This feat is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the amazing things Wilt Chamberlain was able to accomplish. In order to demonstrate Wilt's dominance, let's take an in-depth look into Wilt's 50-point per game season. In the 1961 to 1962 season, Wilt averaged 50.4 points, 25.7 rebounds, and 2.4 assists on an incredible 50.6% from the field. He averaged these historically great numbers throughout all 80 games of the NBA season, while also averaging 48.5 minutes per game. That's more minutes than in a regular NBA game. He was able to accomplish this feat by playing in a total of 7 overtime games, and according to Basketball Reference, he played every single minute of those games. There was only one game in the entire season that Wilt did not play, and he still played 40 minutes. Let's take a look into the individual games, and you'll see how Wilt was able to average 50 points. Wilt is mostly known for one high-scoring game, but in this season, Wilt had 12 games where he had 60 plus points. To put that in perspective, Kobe Bryant had 6 60-point games in his entire career. And this is even the craziest feat he did this season. Remember those 7 overtime games I mentioned earlier? Well, Wilt played 5 games that went to 1 overtime and 1 game that went to 3 overtimes. And he averaged 55 minutes per game. How many points did he average in these 7 games, you may ask? 55 points, the same number as the minutes he played. In the game with 3 overtimes, Wilt put up 78 points, 43 rebounds on 50% from the field. At the time, that was the most points made in a single NBA game. And just a month later, Wilt put up another historic scoring night, putting up 73 points and grabbing 36 rebounds on 60% from the field. He was just 6 points short of breaking his record for the most points in an NBA game. And at this point in history, Wilt had the 2 highest scoring games. But just 2 months later, these historical games would be forgotten because of what Wilt did in Madison Square Garden. On March 3rd, 1962, against the New York Knicks, Wilt Chamberlain put on the greatest scoring night in NBA history, scoring his legendary 100th point in the 4th quarter. He had his historic 100-point night in a regular 48-minute game, and he did it on 36 for 63 shooting. That's 57% from the field. Although, to be fair, Wilt did do this against one of the worst teams in the league. The Knicks had a record of 29 wins and 51 losses. But still, they were grown men with the average height of 6'5", and he put up those 100 points with ease. You remember that 78-point game I mentioned earlier? Well, that was against the Los Angeles Lakers, who had a record of 54 wins and 26 losses. So if you still think that Wilt put up high numbers against bums, I'll give you a few more examples, and you see what you think about Wilt Chamberlain. Let's take a look at Wilt's points per game against the best team in the league, who just happened to have Wilt's greatest rival, Bill Russell. Against Bill Russell, Wilt was able to average 41.6 points and 28 rebounds on 46% shooting, with a win-loss record of 4-8. That is lower than Wilt's usual 50 points per game, but he did have to go up against one of the best defensive players of all time. Not to mention, Bill's teammates were no slouches. Wilt had 3 all-star teammates while Wilt only had 1. Wilt held his own against Bill with minimal help, and his team had the second best record in the East, behind the Celtics, and the third best record in the NBA with a record of 49 wins and 31 losses. With such a historical season and a good record, certainly Wilt was a shoo-in for the MVP, right? Well, no, Bill Russell won MVP this year, and Bill has even stated that this year was his favorite MVP year, because he won it over Wilt and Oscar Robertson, who was the first person who averaged a triple-double. But that's a story for another time. The players used to vote for the MVP back then, and generally thought that Russell was the best player that season. This isn't a video detailing why Wilt should have won the MVP this year. Russell had the best team in the league, and he was the leader of that team. Wilt had 4 MVPs in his career, so I don't think he wondered about what another trophy would look like in his house. Besides, in the NBA, only one trophy matters. The NBA only had 9 teams, and only 3 teams from each conference went into the playoffs. The first seeded teams in each conference had a bye, so Wilt was going to have to face the third seeded 47-33 Syracuse Nationals. Their team had a Hall of Famer, Hal Greer, and if you don't know who that is, well, I don't know either, but he did win a championship with Wilt in 1967. This series was actually hard fought, going 5 games in the first round, which is pretty much a 7-game series because the first round only went to 5 games into 2003, so most of you probably forgot about that. Wilt did put up great numbers in the series, with 37 points, 26.2 rebounds, and 46% from the field. In the next round, Wilt would have to face Bill Russell's Celtics. This series was a hard-fought 7 games, with Wilt putting up 33 points in the first game, but still losing by 28. Then, in the next game, Wilt dropped 42 points in a win. This series goes back and forth like this, 2 legends battling out for a chance to go to the finals and win a championship. Then, with the series tied 3-3, in Game 7, Wilt needs to go all out to get past his rival, and he puts up crazy 22 points and a 2-point loss. Bill went to the finals and won his 5th championship, but Wilt was sitting home. Let's recap. Wilt showcased his stamina and athleticism by averaging 48.5 minutes per game, and he displaced his dominance by having 3 70-plus point games and 12 60-plus point games. Wilt Chamberlain put up the greatest scoring season in NBA history, but all anyone ever talks about is just one game. Thank you for going in depth with me. I'll see you on the surface. Hey, if you stayed this long in the video, then can you do me a favor and hit that like and subscribe button? And I'll tell you about Pickles Kennedy. He played 7 games in the NBA with Wilt Chamberlain in the 1961-1962 season, and he scored 1.7 points per game. But that's not the interesting fact that I wanted to share. It's that his actual birth name was Pickles, and I know this because in an article dedicated to him, a friend of his said that he would give him a jar of pickles as a joke, and the legend of a man said, "I wish my mom had named me Cadillac."